Hey, Jeff, I don't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, now I can hear you, yes.
Very good, thank you.
Is he there?
Hey, Jeff,
Go ahead, James.
can you promote me back to host again, please?
Christina, can you promote James to, oh wait. You should be co-host. Are you co-host now?
I am, but I need to be host.
Okay. Okay, you should be host.
Thank you.
He can hear.
Yeah. Hello, Jimmy. Good. Thank you. Did you guys notice the agenda was in a different format? I was having trouble getting it to. Was yours engaging? Like it? Maybe it was just my home internet. I couldn't decide. It wouldn't engage. It was weird.
Just not impressed with the battery power. Sorry? Not impressed with the battery staying power of these things.
Yeah, neither am I. and, and I'm just,
Jimmy, that piece out south of Crimson High School that's on the agenda tonight. So between that piece, the R37.5 is between that high school, that tiny little sliver. Are they going to meld that all together? Is that just going to be one big subdivision? It's kind of some weird, it's a strange configuration. Who owns it? It's not Jeff Silver's piece, right? Oh, Dave Weller? Oh, okay. You think it's Dave Weller?
share your screen. Share the screen. Once she brings it in, I can't do anything until then.
Okay.
So yeah, get you set up.
I thought it would just be part of the,
Not unless if they don't have them.
she had them, but she didn't have to.
I would like
She didn't put them on the system. Yeah, if she's got them on a flash drive, I'll put the flash drive in. We'll preload them. Is it a series of pictures or is it?
it's not
But are they individual?
One is an artist and one is her who's some sport.
Okay,
We
I
can
can,
show them together, side by side, or
yeah, it depends on how they're done. You'll have to move back and forth between them if you want them both. Or I can put them on if she can put them on in one slide, you can do it that way. Christina, can you put those on one PowerPoint slide? If you do, and you can save it as a PowerPoint, I can put them both up at the same time. Yeah, we'll get you covered.
Hey, you guys, guess what I got today? Yeah, they're putting up our walls today, finally. It's taken forever. Yeah. Actual lumber. Yeah. They delivered it this morning and they were already putting walls up tonight. It was so fast. I kind of didn't expect it, but I drove by it. They started this with me about it. So I thought this morning, so I drove by really early. And they were delivering it, and I thought, oh, cool, well, let's start working on this, tomorrow or the next day or next week or whatever. And we came back home, and I looked at it, and there was a Production's crazy. Yeah, that's why I was good. It's pretty standard. I mean, it's Danielle standard. Yeah. It's not standard, but, I mean, 3D renderings are always kind of ugly, I think. I mean, it's pretty.
The pictures?
Ready.
James, are you ready?
I am.
All right, we'll get started then. Welcome to City Council. And is Tim Martin on Zoom? Okay, so Tim Martin is going to give us our invocation tonight from the Interfaith Council.
You ready? Are you ready?
We are ready.
You may not recognize me. I had to grow a beard because I've lived in St. George for 15 years, and so I either had to grow a beard or buy a pickup. So,
I like it.
yeah, just want to relate to the council. Congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Please join me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful this day that we can gather as part of thy city, part of thy land. We're thankful for the St. George City Council, for our new mayor. We pray a blessing upon them that they might feel inspiration and be in tune with the thoughts and the ideas of those who might speak to them this day. We're thankful for the sacrifices that are being made on behalf of our city. We're thankful for those who have offered to join this council and fill the spot. We pray that as the council and the mayor discuss these matters and the other affairs of the city, that they might feel good about the decisions they make. They might be open to all the ideas that might be brought forward. We're so thankful to be living in this wonderful part of the country, part of thy land. We're so thankful for those who've been able to get vaccines, and pray for some relief from this COVID, that we might be able to soon resume our normal lives. We're thankful now for all those who might speak this day. We're thankful for those who are in attendance and those who serve the city. We ask thy blessing upon all of us this day and throughout this meeting. And this we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. And Tim, I like the beard. It looks good.
I'm telling you, my wife says I look like Sean Connery. How could you be wrong?
Good for you. I've asked Danielle to lead us in the pledge.
Everyone please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Danielle. Christina, were we doing that pre-agenda item right now? Okay, so we do have one pre-agenda item, and Michelle Graves is going to present that along with Marianne Hamilton.
And this is Emily Reed. She's our new community arts manager, for those that haven't met her. So
We're happy to have you aboard.
this is where we'll want that slide. Unless we don't have it. Okay. Marianne's going to present.
Okay. Is it okay? Is this politically correct to take this off? Okay. Good evening, council members, and congratulations, Mayor Randall.
Thank you.
Very happy for you. And I see that our friend Angela De La Vega has joined us from Dallas, Texas. First of all, I'm the chair of Art Around the Corner, the nonprofit group that helps install public art every year in St. George. And this year, when we were speaking with our artists about coming back to St. George to remove the pieces that are going to be cycled out in March, I spoke with Angela and told her how much the community has loved and appreciated her lovely statue, which is called Annika. And it turns out that she created it after watching her goddaughter for a number of years in her life. And Annika is a gorgeous little piece of bronze sculpture. Thank you. And when I explained how much it was valued by the community, Angela said, "Why don't you guys just keep it?" And this is a piece that is valued at over $8,000, so that's a very, very generous contribution to the city of St. George. So on behalf of everybody at Art Around the Corner, I wanted to present a little memento of our appreciation and the city's appreciation. Angela, this is for you. I will read it to you. It says, "With our deepest appreciation, we hereby honor Angela De La Vega with this award in recognition of your generous donation to the city of St. George for the sculpture Annika." Yay, 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 yay.
That's awesome.
Yes, go ahead.
So we have been talking about where to put this statue, and I just want to let you know that we have a beautiful park that has a nature center with a pond where lots of ducks join us every day, and so we think the statue of the little girl holding the duckling would just be such a beautiful addition out there. So we're pleased to tell you when you come to St. George and visit us, which we hope you do, that you'll be able to find it located out there, if that's okay with the council.
It's a great place. Angela, would you like to say anything?
Oh, just thank you so much. I've been giggling so much, so I think it's good you had me on mute. But I am completely delighted, and thank you so much for valuing my heart's work this way. It's kind of what moves my world, so thank you so much. I'm really honored.
We appreciate your donation. It's going to be a great donation to the city. Thank you so very much. And Danielle, did you have some comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Angela and all of our artists. You know, I have been involved with Art Around the Corner since about 2005, and for I'll just say this for the public's awareness. Art Around the Corner is basically an outdoor sculpture exhibit where these wonderful artists like Angela, they give us their sculpture to you basically display in our city for an entire year. So all of our residents get to enjoy it, and the Art Around the Corner board works hard to sell or place their sculptures. And like Angela just said, that was a perfect way to say it. It's the heart, really. Every one of these artists puts so much of their heart into the pieces that they bring. And so it's just this amazing value to our city that they're willing to allow us to have a piece of their hearts in our city for an entire year and sometimes beyond. And now in this case, Angela being so generous, we get to keep her piece forever. And I just can't tell her how grateful we are for her generosity, and especially just for bringing it in the first place, for trusting St. George, Utah to house your piece. And we will really cherish it, and we thank you.
Thank you. How lovely.
Council, any other comments you want to say? Anybody? Just thanks.
Thank you. Yep.
So where should my husband and I stay when we come visit?
You can stay at my house.
So sweet. Thank you.
They took a picture, Angela, with you in the background, so you've got a picture.
Thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. And
How
thanks for your
lovely. Thank
time.
you. Well, this will go in a place of honor on my wall here in my studio. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. So we'll just go to our first item on the agenda, well, for this, I guess, kind of work session. The presentation and discussion for the proposed Performing Arts Center. And Shane, if you'll just take us away with that one.
Okay. I'll go ahead and do a quick introduction and kind of get this started. Duncan, are you on? Duncan Webb?
I am here. Yes, Shane.
All right. So the St. George is blessed to have a plethora of different art groups around here with all kinds of art, music, dance, theater. And one of our theater groups made a presentation to the City Council last fall, which I'm sure all you remember. And this was about a partnership between the city and the county and them to create a new performing arts center. So the city took that under advisement, and the city thought it would be good to have a professional evaluation of that proposal by Duncan Webb, who has done a couple of studies for the city regarding performing arts and arts. And so he reviewed the proposal by the St. George Music Theater. And then as at some point, the proposal got merged with the county's project with the new administration building, and a different potential location was discussed, and that's where the existing administration building is now that the county is going to be replacing. And so we also asked Duncan then, in that case, to evaluate the two sites, the parking lot behind the school district by Town Square, and then the corner location here by the new county administration building that's going to be built. And with that, Duncan, if we could let you kind of give an overview, and then we'll probably have a discussion with questions since this is a work session. So, Duncan, would you mind giving a kind of a brief discussion on the comparison of the two sites for us?
I will. So, Shane, do you want me to say anything about the first part of the work related to just evaluating the proposal in general, or just should I get right to the site question?
I think at this point we just want to discuss about the two potential locations, unless City Council would like to also hear a synopsis of the evaluation of the St. George Music Theater's proposal. All right, Duncan, let's go ahead and start with the locations, and then perhaps questions and discussion will morph back into the discussion regarding the proposal.
Sure. Can you see my screen up, the comparison of sites?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come back to St. George, at least virtually. I've really enjoyed the work that we've done in your community. I'm remain sort of thrilled and optimistic about the potential for St. George to be a strong arts community, as you've already been talking about this evening, but I think there's a place for additional performing arts facilities, and I'm glad that the St. George Musical Theater has stepped forward with a concept. The second part of that work was looking at the possible sites. So we looked at these two different sort of options. The city site I'm referring to again as down by Town Square behind the school building, and then the county administration building site here. They really aren't that far. It's interesting how different those two sites really are in terms of sort of what's there and what's around them. Let's see if I can get to the next one. So the city site is that the Town Square site. Who is Angie Mason? Is that somebody trying to come into this meeting that I should admit? I don't think I can. Anyways, so we have this sort of 2-acre site along South 200 West, backing onto those houses running along West 100 South. Several of those lots and structures are privately owned. There's sort of room for surface parking on the land north of the site. There is this area a little bit to the east that has been discussed as sort of an outdoor programming site, which is sort of interesting. This image is one that we created when we were there 2 years ago. This was about putting that entire performing arts center that we recommended that years ago on that site. So what we're talking about with the St. George Musical Theater is, less than a half of that site. But just to make the point that sort of smaller building certainly easily fits on that site. And then we have the county building site, or the administrative building site. I'm showing it a little bit visually here. I've tried to show the boundaries of that potential site on this building. The existing building disappears to become the new county building next to it. I think the interesting urban planning that's been done is this idea of having this sort of plaza area in front of the new building that can also extend to become the front sort of plaza in front of this building, to create that sort of opening sort of active area, and then the proposed new parking structure behind it, daytime use for the county, evening use for the St. George Musical Theater and other sort of community arts programs in it. So when we think about comparing those two sites, we were thinking about size, cost, parking, the development plan, visibility, access, and amenities. So when we evaluate these two sites, I looked at it through those criteria. Really, both sites are large enough for the intended use, although the county site, really the idea there to put a second floor to create a bit more density and still have that plaza seems to be important. The cost to develop the sites is similar, but the difference is about the sort of the donation for the city. On the Town Square site, you are donating that parcel of land for that use, while on the county site is based on the county donating their parcel for this new use. Both sites probably have sufficient parking, although that sort of having a parking structure on the Town Square site is probably less appealing visually in this more residential area rather than the county site, which is already sort of built up in that way where structure won't look at all sort of intrusive. Both sites have good access, strong visibility. The problem for the city site or the Town Square site is the potential sort of opposition to that sort of big structure on the part of those residential sort of structures in the area south and west of the site. The county site, offers better proximity to amenities such as restaurants in the downtown area that are also within range of that parking structure. So, I think from the city's perspective, the county site represents a strong opportunity to participate in the St. George Musical Theater project without having to give up that parcel of land on the town square site. The county is proposing to take a leadership role with some planning that's already been done that adds the structured parking and this idea of an extended plaza, and also the promise of additional spaces for other community arts groups. So it's really, in my mind, if the city is comfortable sort of passing the lead on the project to the county with this site, I think it's a very strong proposition from the city's perspective. So let me stop there and see if there are any questions and comments.
How big is the county site? You said the city site was 2 acres, so
Yeah. So I don't know the exact measurements. It's a little bit less, but if you stack it, you sort of can get the same. You can get the same facility onto that site.
thank you. Any questions for Duncan, council?
I got a question. How were both of these sites identified? Meaning, how did they come to be as options? Who approached who, or just trying to find out? Just interested. Did the city present our site and come up and say, we'd like to offer, this is an option for you? Did the county come up and say, this is an option for you? Is that how we identified the sites?
I think that's correct. I mean, Diamond had meetings with, I think, both the city and the county. We had talked about our site. We weren't involved in the meetings with the county, but I understand that was kind of a similar conversation. And I think the counties recognize that they have some opportunities on their property. And so if Commissioner Almquist wants to speak to this, I think they recognize that they may have some things that they would want to combine with this site. And so that's my understanding of how it became an option. Is that right?
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, council, right now? Diamond, do you have any comments? Will you state your name for Christina?
Diamond McPherson. I serve as the chair of the St. George Musical Theater Board. Tony Allen is the vice chair. And we have been actively pursuing a proposal for a couple of years now, and had several meetings as Adam indicated. And we are at the point where, and you remember the presentation we made right here, so I don't need to go over any of those details, but we're just excited that after this period of time, not only do we have the city that wants to build a theater, but a county as well. We're just happy to be located wherever the elected officials want us to be. And we believe that we can build an appropriate theater for the $7 million that, without attributing any value to the land, but a cash requirement of about $7 million, of which St. George Musical Theater would raise $3 million. And then we're asking the county and the city to each contribute $2 million. So the proposal hasn't changed since we presented it 4.5 months ago. And we're just excited to continue to have this push forward. Tony and I are not getting any younger, so we're anxious to move forward and to get this theater built. It would be fabulous if we could be open sometime between the end of 2022 and 2023, because there's a lot of things that are going to be happening in St. George in those time frames, and to have the opportunity for downtown evening activity and entertainment is what we provide and offer. And so that's where we are.
Thanks.
So as far as sites, well, which location do you prefer?
Well, you're asking me a delicate question.
Pretend like nobody else is in the room.
The city site would be finished before the county site would be. The county site has to wait until the current new building gets finished. Then the demolition would occur on the old building, and then that site would be developed. We think visually the site on Second East has more attractiveness. And the site over there, as indicated by Duncan Webb, is more in a little bit of a residential area, but an area that's going to continue to develop and grow. Obviously, there's parking being provided on both sites. And so that's a tough question, Councilmember Hughes.
Understandable.
Yeah, we just are anxious to get a theater built, okay?
Yeah.
And ready to do our part. It's important for us to get down this path as fast as we can because we still have to raise a couple $1 million. Right. And the sooner we have the site identified and have an agreement that lays out the financial commitments on the part of the city and the county will allow us to go to our best friends, if you will, and the foundations and up north, those generous families that set aside money for activities like this, you know who they are, the Eccles and Sorensen and all. They've indicated early interest in what we're doing, but they want to have at least half to maybe 2/3 of the money raised or committed. And so with the city and the county contribution dollars, plus what we've got already, would allow us to make those pitches. So we're confident we can continue to get our share of it raised. And we're just anxious to get that started.
Perfect. Well, your involvement's been very helpful as well and impressive, and so I'm still all in. I've always been a non-fan, if you would say, of the city site, just because of my concern for that area and the parking that I feel like we're already having an issue with in that area. So I like the prospect of the county site. However, I guess that hinges a lot on the county as well. So I would never want to say that's the way we're going until we've had a conversation with the county as far as what they're going to want to see and do in regards to the facility and what they're going to need as far as our participation and the parking structure and so forth. Obviously, the parking structure in that area would benefit, if it was a public parking structure, would benefit the whole city. So. I'm in favor of looking at that. I guess again, it would go back to the county and what they're really willing to do and what we can step in and do with what our commitment already is that we've made to you and SGMT.
Well, I think the county has stepped up nicely here in the past few months and has expressed real interest in moving forward, and of course the city has as well. So I guess I would suggest, if I may, as a citizen of this community, let's not deliberate forever on this. Let's make some decisions and get on with it because I think there's a lot to be offered here. We're currently, even in a COVID environment, we still put on 6 shows this past year, and we've tried to be responsive to all of the requirements for the coronavirus. But in a normal year, we will entertain 20 to 22,000 people. Duncan looked at the analysis that we provided, where our worst case is 50,000, and that's a lot of people spending a few hours downtown St. George in the evening. And our longtime relationship with the city and the theater, of course, would carry the city's name. I think that's a wonderful goodwill statement for the entire state as well. So it just gives this area something exciting to look forward to.
What I liked these mics seem really loud tonight, huh? What I liked about, after reading Duncan's study is, at first I wasn't real sold on the county site, but the county site allows other arts groups. And we've always talked about a performing arts center here, but it came with an $80 million price tag, which is more than our general budget is, and our general fund, and we just can't, we're not in a position to do that right now. But the county site would allow other groups to share your space, so that was attractive. And it also seemed kind of like a bookend to the arts district. You know, like it ends here, it starts over here. So we do have conversations to have Any more questions?
By the way, thank you for continuing to have productions responsibly. You don't know how much that's probably helped people in the community. Sorry, I'm one of those people that feel like we have a lot of other things going on that may be worse down the road with this pandemic if we don't let people get out and associate with each other. So,
Right.
so thank you for doing that. Appreciate it.
Well, it's a labor of love. I don't sing, I don't dance. You'll never see me on stage.
Never say never.
No, I'm saying never. But there is so much that excitement that other people enjoy from live performance and live entertainment. Just look what Tuacon's done for the city.
Oh, for sure.
In this county. It's just fabulous. And so we bring a different niche, but the same thing can happen. And a wonderful public-private partnership will, I think, bring that about.
I agree with what you guys said, and I just feel like, especially what you brought up, Mayor, about the fact that we could, as much as we want to be able to build something for every single art group and have that space now, we're not in a space to do that now. So I thought the county's offer was really generous and smart that, as much as we can accommodate, we should do. If we can make that work, it would be fantastic.
I guess I'll chime in too if we're just talking, just as discussion topic, if we're looking at both properties. Having run a lot of events with my days at the Chamber of Commerce, we ran a lot of events at that downtown, what is that? They call that the town square. So I really like the openness of that. And I could see like putting an outdoor stage or something on the one end. And maybe even extending the grass out there, just keeping that open feel for downtown. Oh my gosh, I love that. And it gets used so much. So when I heard about, and it's very recently, just this week, about the option for the county, old county building, I think that's exciting. I think that opens up our downtown. It brings it, just like Michelle said, to where it's more walkable, even over to that area, over to 200 East. I like the option of, having, again, I'll bring up the Chamber of Commerce more time. As part of the Chamber of Commerce, we represent all of the nonprofits, and a majority of those are arts related. And so if there's a way that we could accommodate even more with that building, if there's an option, if that building could do that in a way that accommodates that more, I think it's just great. So I really like that space. Another one is, I hate to lose the old county administration building because it's like the best. It's that old mid-century modern. So maybe if something came in there that kind of paid homage to that or something, that's just, anyways. I think it's putting something in there that's cool, arts related, that goes in that space would be really cool. So I really like that location. Just giving points of thought.
Well, the county site would allow the city to preserve its wonderful site, like you
Yeah,
said.
yeah, it does.
And use it for other purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe someday, Duncan, I'm looking right at your face there, that big performing arts complex could go there as we create more interest in this activity.
That's right.
On the question of timing, assuming we figure out finances and reach an agreement on the location, we do have to remember that you're likely going to be months, probably 7 to 8 months minimum in design, and that may be optimistic, just the way things are right now. So we do have that would factor into the overall timeline, and that may equal the two sites a little bit better as far as timing goes.
We have said at the St. George Musical Theater that we really would like the city or the county, whichever site is selected, to be totally happy with whatever the outside of the building looks like. We just want to be very, very much involved as a financial partner on what happens inside and how that theater idea is laid out, which would dictate that we do have to hire a theater consultant who has built theaters on the inside. I would hope that 7, 8 months, Adam, could be shortened. Of course, I'm always the optimist.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
But I'm with Mr. McPherson. Let's get it figured out. Are we going to hear from Gil?
I don't know. Are we going to hear from Gil? Okay. Commissioner Almquist, would you like to speak?
Yeah. Gil reminded me today. This is classic Gil, so you have to think about this for a second. He reminded me that I was into 6 foot distancing before it was cool.
Well, do you want another Gillism?
Yeah.
So Christina assured me tonight that there would be no public comments because that kind of makes me really nervous on really kind of a first official meeting. And then I get handed a comment form, and I'm like, Christina, you lied. But the name on the form was from Joe Biden. And Commissioner Almquist filled it out. So anyway, I was happy it wasn't a real one.
Well, I can give you a little history of where we've come, which, Greg Fair, you asked that question about why are we here when at one point we were only talking about the city site, right? First of all, SGMT came to the county to see if we would participate in a dollar amount that they had suggested for finally, after 20 years about, seems like, doesn't it, Danielle, that we would actually find a home for St. George Musical Theater. Now, the city's been generous to let them be in the Opera House, but it's confining to the point that they know they could have bigger shows, they could have more people if they could only expand, right? So in that intent, the city site was proposed, and I thought, and we early on committed to the financial request. And we're still absolutely to the penny committed to that request. When we looked at our site, because we knew through the parking arrangement with the city to allow the new administration building to be built that we would have to build a parking garage. And at the time, then Mayor Pike had said, hey, that might be a benefit to everyone down there. Maybe St. George would participate in that as well. Water under the bridge, because new mayor, new time, but at least that was what propelled us a little bit towards thinking, okay, we could have a parking garage that serves our needs during the day, but would serve something on the corner at night, and or the enlarged surroundings, right? And that if the city would participate, it made a lot of sense, because then you don't have to build a parking garage or what have you. From that point on, we were thinking, and I think I watched a movie about Chernobyl, and I thought many of the outbuildings there looked just like the current Washington County Administration building. So
I'm with you, Greg. I have a lot of great memories of that building. Okay, I might even come take.
Probably had your marriage license there or something. Anyway, so okay, enough joking aside, even though it's deadly serious. We thought, well, that's going to be a vacant corner. Would it be big enough? And then the idea came to us that it's not just St. George Musical Theater that needs a home. It's a lot of other groups. And quite frankly, even to this day, we have not spoken to all the other groups. But all of us know that there's Heritage Choir, there's other smaller theater groups, there's others that want to perform, not in the round like St. George Musical does, but on a stage, maybe with an audience, elevated seating, whatever. So all of that came together. We took a tour of the festival center up in Cedar, because they have a similar type of arrangement, no theater in the round, but they do have a large theater if you've been there, or, similar to Cox Auditorium. And then next to it, they have offices, conference space. People can come in and rent for whatever their needs are. So intrigued a little bit by that, we thought, well, maybe we could blend two uses. Recently, in the last basically 72 hours, we've come to doubt whether our site is big enough. And even though with a parking garage to accommodate, let's say, a 350-seat auditorium, which seems to be not quite big enough for some, but too big for others, but somewhere in the middle, sort of a, Goldilocks thing, that our site may not be big enough with our cross traffic that's going through there and the size of our parking garage, et cetera. So meeting last week with some city officials, things kind of turned a little bit towards the vision that the city had originally to the west side of Town Square. And we'd even asked in that meeting, what about the residences? What homes does St. George City own? You've got the big Jedora across the way, and there were just a lot of questions we asked about the neighborhood, and with the exception of a few homes, thought, well, okay, maybe an outdoor pavilion, as city manager had talked about being a bookend to your own park, Town Square. Would it actually hurt the neighbors if that was facing east and St. George Musical Theater was on the west? So not to get into the over-design, because I realize in just a few minutes you're going to have a meeting here, and I want to respect that completely. But I think there's going to need to be a lot more work because of the three commissioners, and I can only speak for myself, almost over the weekend, we also went in another direction. So it's not like saying, hey, we're not going to dance, we're not coming to the party. We certainly are with our financial commitment, but there'll have to be a lot more discussion on some of these details that I don't think we can work out tonight. But as for now, the county site might be off the table, and only because of some discussions that would have to get into more details about who pays for what, will you really participate in a parking garage, will you not, you know, just all of those sort of things have yet to be sort of finalized. In fairness to the last week's meeting, none of us had read Duncan Webb's report. We have a brand new mayor getting caught up on some of the things that maybe weren't in her line of responsibilities at the city. We've got other council members, and to Duncan's credit, he's done great work, all from the last 10 years. But I think none of us really had that report. But in speaking only for one commissioner, because there's three of us, I can't commit them, and as of right now, there's some hesitation on everyone's part. The simplicity factor would be, we write St. George City a check, and then it's yours. Duncan says, hey, we'll hand it off to them, they'll be lead. It's kind of like the hot potato. I don't want it, you know? But in reality, we all want St. George Musical Theater and other groups to have a home. So how we're going to do that is going to take more discussion, but in all seriousness, the county site may be too small. We've done some laying out of how another theater or another presentation area would work there, and maybe we don't have the space that we thought we had, even if we do move close to the street. Questions?
So if I scheduled another dance, would you come to it?
We could schedule another dance. I'm sure that we would get everyone to come to the dance. Who might actually get on the floor? I don't know.
So Commissioner
It's worth
Almquist,
trying.
after you saw Duncan's, proposal or his analysis, I should call it, is it still fair to say that you guys are willing to chat about, hiring somebody to actually draw the site out and see if it would work, so that we can see if it would work to fit other groups in along with the St. George Musical
We put
Theater?
that back on SGMT with some of the funds they have already to look at design tech, possibilities, either through an RFQ or an RFP. But I do want you to know that the flavor right now is not, I'm going to take my ball and go home, but as speaking for the last 4 or 5 days, that's been the tenor of the discussion. But I think, Mayor, out of our deep respect for how we all get along, because don't we really want what's best for the community, not just musical theater, but downtown?
Right.
And we drive around the country and look at how many downtowns are destroyed because they didn't care about it. Well, we have a 30, 40-year history about saying, no, we're not going to lose our downtown. And this is just yet another element of saying, where does this go? We just need to think of what's best for performing and visual arts, as well as the city as a whole, and quite frankly, not revitalizing, but continuing to vitalize. What would be the right word? The vitality of downtown.
I just think there's more discussions to be had. I would like to have more discussion. Not months, Diamond. He's back there panicking. He's like, I'm counting the years.
Yeah, well.
But, just revisit it and then, come up with a final
I can just say that it's a heavier lift now for the county site, although I'm like Diamond, I'm very optimistic. There's a lot of questions yet to be asked. Could somebody be in the theater in the round, and on the same night somebody be in the theater next door? Would they be performing South Pacific and with overtones of the, 1812 overture. You know, I mean, it wouldn't work. So there are people that would have to get involved in that. But quite frankly, I could see it at both locations and working. It's just, we all figure that out together. But I do want to add that, don't shoot the messenger, but right now I think the county site is probably too small, and for the moment at least, because of all the other discussions of other puzzle pieces in that game, probably off the table.
Commissioner, can I ask a question? I just have a comment and a question. The first comment is, I think when we were discussing this earlier 4 months ago, if it goes on, and this is just to help me process, right, as we start trying to think of solutions for this or ideas. When we talked 4 months ago, if it goes on the City of St. George's site that's on the west side of Town Square, it never included additional space for other performing arts, right? It's straight just in the round theater because that's what fits there. And so if we were to move, if we need to stay with that concept, so to keep it apples to apples in comparison, I guess could just in the round fit in the county space?
It would totally fit, but we feel like as far as spending community tax dollars, that it would need to be a broader, to extend a broader availability to more people. I don't know if anybody's been to an SGMT. I think all of us have. Their productions are fabulous. And I would say that if those were the only things I could go to the rest of my life, that I would. But other people like other, choirs and concerts and orchestras. And we know that a lot of those groups are finding it hard to schedule the university that has doubled in size since some of those groups started. And therefore, it's hard to book things and practice time, et cetera. We think our site is probably still too small to do some of the major things that might want to happen there, and we'd need a Duncan or somebody to design something that would happen. But we feel like it would be a harder climb if we said, okay, just one thing will be here and nothing else.
Okay. And then, so those two concerns would be the size and then wanting to accommodate others. Are there other concerns that the city could, are there other concerns that we can help think about or that could help resolve issues if there was a chance of opportunity of being on that site?
Well, obviously, if it goes down on your site here by the west side of Town Square, you'll probably need a parking garage also.
Yeah.
And we're still going to build ours. And so then it becomes, well, do we need two? You see, and you wouldn't participate in ours if you still have to put money into yours. So there's that interplay as well. To answer your question, I think was
just trying to find out what the concerns are to see if there's any possibility of resolving, just to see. I'm just trying to get information to.
Well, why don't we meet and we can figure that out?
Okay.
Because there's some nuts and bolts here that are, I don't think the wheels are off the wagon, but we probably need to come and collect the parts. I know my colleagues and others might say, well, we don't need to meet again, but I think out of fairness, we all would agree we do.
Yeah, you can't just have a one and done meeting.
Right.
So there's a lot more discussion to be had.
Yeah.
Duncan, you're still on there. Do you have anything to add?
Sure. I think we need to go back to the drawing board and do a little bit more work together with St. George Musical Theater, others representing the needs of those other arts organizations, which we could certainly help with, the city and the county, and trying to figure out how to solve these problems. So I don't think any of the problems are unsolvable. It's just going to take a little work.
And I think all of us agree, Duncan, that within the time frame we've been talking about, maybe it's 2 years, end of 23 or something, St. George Musical Theater and maybe others ought to have a home. It's just time. And we're committing our funds to do that. And to go along with what you said, Mayor, one and done isn't fair. I remember in New York, I went into a lunch sandwich place, and there's like a gazillion choices, the Jackie Gleason, the John Wayne, and all the ingredients are so small I couldn't read them up on the board. So when it was my turn to get in front of the register or the order, he says, okay, what do you have? And I go, what's on and literally within like 3 seconds, he said, back up. back up. And I never even got a sandwich because I didn't know what I wanted right immediately. So-
I know exactly which sandwich shop you're talking about. I've been in there.
Well, so fair enough.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
What time is it? So we're almost ready to start other meetings. So Diamond, we'll schedule more meetings with the county and get with you and try to come to a quicker agreement. And I would love to see it include a building that could include space for other people too. So with that being said, I think if they can be quick, we have our regular meeting starts in 5 minutes. So who needs to comment or would like to? Anybody? You're good? Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Duncan. We appreciate it.
So
I've been putting it in there, but
All right, it's 5:03, so we're going to start. For those of you just joining us, we had a work meeting prior to this regular meeting, and we had our invocation and our pledge and all of that, so that's already taken care of. And Adam, are there any changes to the agenda we need to know about?
Yes, we do have one change. Item number 10 has been removed. That will be rescheduled. So item number 10 is off the agenda for tonight. Otherwise, we're good to go.
Okay. And so our first is comments from the public, and I'll just read the rules real quick. So you must be a resident of St. George. Each speaker will be given approximately 3 minutes. Be courteous and show respect. Comments cannot be related to any pending issues on the agenda or likely a future agenda. And right now, I just have one comment. If anybody else has one of these they want to fill out, give them to our city recorder. They're right over there on the table. And if anybody on Zoom has a comment they want to make, then leave that in the chat. Shut up. Shush. They're white papers. So first, we will have Mike McKee. Mike, do you want to come up and address us? Jimmy, will you keep time? Keep time. Thanks, Jeff.
To be honest with you, I was a little hesitant in coming up and addressing this. My question is who looks into the complaints against public employees of St. George, especially the police department? Who investigates it?
Do you have something specific, or have you called the police chief to launch a complaint?
I have called numerous people, and they always say, I'm going to get back to you, and they never do. So I was just curious, who does it? If I have a complaint against, say, a public worker who addresses me in a bad way, or even the police department.
Well, most people
they're
call
all-
into our city recorder, and then she forwards it to whoever would be over that department.
So it's the department heads themselves that investigate it?
Well, not necessarily investigate it. They would look into the complaint. If it's a legitimate complaint that needs to be investigated, then an investigation takes place by our legal department.
So it's handled in-house?
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody on the outside that looks into it? Say citizens of St. George that have a committee that review anything that happens?
Yeah.
I'm really, on YouTube, there's been incidences of St. George PD and the way they handle people. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them or not, but about a year ago, there was a First Amendment auditor that went to the police department and was kicked out. If the legal counsel doesn't know, that perhaps they should check up on what the Supreme Court has ruled, what can be videotaped from public areas.
We saw that.
Okay. And it's just things like that. If it's the police department looking into themselves, it's too much of the famous, gee, we investigated ourselves, we found out we did nothing wrong.
If it's something very serious, like a police shooting, another agency investigates it. But when you have somebody go in just trying to stir up trouble, then...
He's exercising his First Amendment rights.
Yeah,
is what
he
I'm
did,
saying.
and...
I think there should be a civilian review board that looks into a lot of the complaints. And I'm
Right.
not talking about the ones where, a public worker took 5 minutes longer on his lunch break than he should have because I timed him. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about, I think there should be a civilian review board made up of citizens of St. George that do look into these complaints. Anybody can look at the policy books, anybody can look at the law books and figure out, was it handled properly or not?
Well, thanks.
Okay? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So next I have Doreen Gertsch, is that right? Okay, Doreen.
I was told that this is the right place to come to talk about what we're talking about today, and because I at first was told that I needed to contact somebody to add this to the agenda, but in order to get on the agenda, I got to come here. So,
Doreen, sorry, could you state your name and address, please?
Yeah, Doreen Gertsch, the full address, or just St. George, the full address?
Yeah, for the record. For this
Oh, okay. 2725 East, 1170 South Circle, St. George, Utah. So, so I've actually been contacting several people in the city, this city, and also in Washington County City, well, Washington City, about this, and we're not really sure what, we're just trying to go to whatever aspects we can to be able to raise attention to this, because we're also talking to the high school athletic directors at both Desert Hills and Crimson high schools. And also I had a meeting this morning with Ben Ray, who is the Washington County, the Washington Community Center director, facility director up there. And so he's not able to do anything with regards to this. And the Crimson, we have a meeting on Friday tomorrow with Crimson's athletic director to get our issues looked at. But so there's several things that we're needing to address here, but I'm not really sure exactly what stuff to bring here. So I'm just going to go forward with stuff. So the main thing that this all boils down to is we feel like there needs to be another pool for this area, because our kids there's Sousa. I'm not sure if you've heard of Sousa before. So Sousa is the main swimming community and competitive team in town, and they've basically had all free reign of this area. They have a contract actually with Washington County right now to have full rights of 4 lanes at Washington Community Center, and I think it even extends to SHAC, the Sand Hollow Aquatic Center, of their contract to be able to have those lanes and have no one else have access to those lanes. So Sousa has it was given the privilege of having these rights to the swim lanes. And so anybody else who comes in, because my kids are on a competitive team that is just surfacing in town right now that actually has an Olympic coach that he's trying to get into lanes, and being able to find lane space has been extremely difficult for us because of this contract that Washington City has with Sousa, and which is really confusing to us that Sousa would even have this contract instead of the high schools having some contract, because the reason why this contract was originally formed, I guess, was so that Sousa could say, well, all the high schoolers are going to come through, that they can have part in these 4 lanes. That's given to them at Washington Community Center, but it's just fishy how things are really working out. It's like, because my kids have swim lessons at Washington Community Center, and so I've been keeping an eye on the lanes that they've been doing in the times that high school kids have been going there, and the Sousa has not been filling up the lanes. They've been just elbowing out anybody who wants to use the lanes, and the community center saying, well, we can't do anything about it because they have this contract. And so any other competitive teams who come to town, they immediately get squashed by Sousa because they can't even get lane space to be able to bring to be able to get their swimmers to practice. And so the only reason why we were able to, Mike, who's the competitive...
I don't mean to be rude, but your time's almost up. So
oh, okay. So we were able to get into SHAC to get our foot in the door, but there's no room left at SHAC anymore, and there's no room, we're being told, at Washington Community Center. And then, so that leaves nothing available pool-wise. And so we're wondering what we can do about this, how we can get money, and why. And there's so much more to this, but that's the extent of what I can say during 3 minutes or whatever I've used.
I appreciate that. So I'll have a conversation with Shaq. We meet like quarterly, but obviously we can't do anything about the Washington City Rec Center. And also there is an option. I know they are trying to bring Region 9, the swim meet to the university.
To Dixie, yeah.
And so I don't know if that's a choice or not, but if you will give Christina, I have your email, but if you'll give Christina your phone number, I'll call and chat with you more in depth on this, because it sounds like it's a more in-depth conversation.
That would be great. Thanks so much.
You're
Okay.
welcome. And Kara, you wanted to talk about the same thing?
Yeah, just real quick.
Okay.
My kid actually swims
And state your name for the record.
Kara Walker, 2714 East, 1240 South. 2714 East, 1240 South. Did you get it? Okay, so my son also swims on Crimson, and they did cancel the state meet, and they were going to have it at Dixie, but they're having an NCAA championship that week when we're supposed to have states, so we're going up to Davis County to swim. We're like stretched, there's nowhere for these guys to go. And, Dixie is being rented out for $5,000 every Friday and Saturday from teams in Las Vegas. They are dying to come here. And we just don't have anywhere to go. They won't let the high schools in. They say it's too expensive. We can't afford to pay, I think it's $25 an hour for a lane. And we need 6 lanes because we have currently 50 swimmers just on Crimson, 102 for all the teams, but it will probably increase to 125. It's growing like crazy out there. And the 80s don't know what to do. They don't know how to find us any more room, and Dixie can't reduce the prices. So anyway, our proposal is just that we can get an outdoor pool, get it built somewhere out there. That's our goal, because with diving boards, so it's big enough that you could maybe just do outdoor. They have them in Henderson. I lived in Henderson, and we swam there for 7 years. You just have to keep it covered. But they also made a mistake and didn't make enough stadium seating. They cut off one side. And so you need to have it 25 by 25 sanction regulation. Otherwise, and you'll make money because you'll have people from all over coming to use that pool. I mean, we've done this for years, and I think just for the state meet in Nevada, it was $110K they made just for that event. We would use it, I know we would, and you can make it back. But anyway, we just have nowhere for these 3 high schools to go. So anyway, and the contracts are just causing so much anxiety and stress for everybody, and there's stress within the high schools, and there's fighting within the teams, and there's no way to expand and make this a better swim place, which it should be. It's a year-round place. We don't have, winter around here. We can swim outside, technically, really, all year round. So anyway, that's really all I have to say, but so whatever.
Thank you for your comments. And I noticed our Leisure Services Director, Shane McAfee, gave his Carter information, and if you can give her yours also, and we will be in touch.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay, Adam, that's all I've got for item number 1, so.
Well, that takes us to the consent calendar. We have 12 items tonight. Please note that 3 of those are on the addendum, so don't overlook those. Those are items J, K, and L. Staff recommends approval of the consent calendar as proposed. If you'd like to take any of these off for individual discussion, or if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. Otherwise, we recommend approval.
Council, questions or more information you need?
Everybody good? I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Jenna is presenting item number 3.
Okay, so the annual action plan for our CDBG program came before you in December. Staff's addressed some comments from HUD. So sections 15, 20, 35, 38, and our citizen participation were updated just to address HUD's comments. It is a public hearing item again. It's been put out for a 5-day comment period, and then tonight's public hearing just to accept any comments from our public.
All right. With council, any questions for Jenna before we open the public hearing? With that, I will open the public hearing for anybody who has come wanting to offer input or ask questions on item number 3. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Come back to you, council.
Any concerns? I'll go ahead and make a motion then that we approve the program year 2020 annual action plan for the community development block grant.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Brian. This doesn't call for a roll call, does it? No? So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thanks, Jenna.
Wes, item number 4. Just chat back there and ignore us. It's okay.
Let me see if I can. Hey, Christina, how do you, who's the host so they can, just need to disable it so I can share my screen.
Sorry, Wes, you should be able to share now.
Sweet, there you go. Okay, item 4 is a request for a public hearing and consideration of changing the name of a public street from Hilton Drive to Auto Mall Drive located between Dixie Drive and Blackridge Drive on the north end. So basically, here's Blackridge Drive. You can kind of see the red line here indicates where the street name would be changed. Obviously coming down here along Hilton and then turning over into here into Dixie Drive. So that's the request, is to change this to Auto Mall Drive right there where that red line is.
Council, any questions, comments, concerns? We don't have a Hilton anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was,
No.
yeah, that's what I was going to say, that's all.
How long has it been since we've had a Hilton?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Wes, could you explain the process that we went through to notify property owners, and then just a reminder that this is a public hearing?
Yeah, so you're right. It is a public hearing, then, right? We notified all the property owners there, especially those who have addresses along there, just to make sure that there wasn't any, they didn't have any issues with renaming of the road.
With this being a public hearing, I will open it up for anyone wanting to offer any input, ask questions. Oh, we did
Council.
receive one letter opposing the name change from MegaPro. The council all received it. Had an opportunity to read it. Okay.
And perhaps you'd want to hear from the applicant as well.
Stephen, would you like to say anything? It's totally up to you. In case Christina doesn't know who you are, state your name.
My name is Stephen Wade, and I live in Ivans now, in the reserve. There is not a Hilton anymore. I remember we looked at doing this once before, and the people that then had the hotel there said, "Hold off, will you a minute, Stephen? I'm trying to get this renamed to Hilton Hotel." That's Overton. That's now in the hotel business of trying to build more hotels here. So we held off. The reason we feel it needs to be designated as an auto mall is if you'll look at your city plan, that was the area that was designed for automobiles. and the city wanted, we were all set to go over where the Dixie Center is. I bought all that ground, and the city came under Gary then and said, we need you across the road to meet with our footprint, and we want to make that the area that is an automobile area. So we'd like to define that as such. With my latest purchases, I now own 40 plus of those acres, all the way up to the hotel, and have just now put Maverick under contract at the end for a while. So we'll have a majority of that land, and we'd like to bring in other automobile franchises. That's our goal. And we think it's imperative that for the city's benefit, you do collect a little bit of tax
Just a
from
little.
automobiles, and it's imperative, I think, that you sign that as to what it really is. It's an automobile row, and that's what we're trying to make of it, and that's what the city wanted in the beginning. So I want to be respectful of everybody there. We've had great neighbors, but there is Mega Pro that's on that one corner, but the majority of that is pretty automobile oriented now, especially with the last 12 acres that we just purchased. And then we have the ground up on the hill on Black Ridge as well. So I think it's a reasonable proposal, and I think it is a benefit financially to the city from a tax standpoint. Now that's my point of view, and we all have opinions, like should we have Dixie College or not, which is another point. So
We're talking automobile.
yeah, that's right. Anything else? Any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Thanks to all you.
Appreciate it.
This is an auspicious group. I didn't say suspicious. I said auspicious, and we appreciate all you do.
Thank
You take a
you.
lot of brain damage.
We could call it Dixie Automall Drive. No, I think,
I'll close the public hearing because nobody had any comments, so.
and I think it's a legitimate concern that this letter brings up. I mean, they are going to have to change some of their, even this letterhead, they're probably going to have to change, and they're going to be some small expense. But that being said, I mean, that's what's really down there, and I think it does is an advantage. I do want to disagree with what's been said, though. I think we do have a Hilton here in town, just not over there anymore. So all the more reason to change it, right? Maybe we could swap that over there. I think next to isn't that the Hilton Garden Inn or something?
Yeah, but just not down.
Yeah, by the Dixie Center. Yeah. So, anyways, just a little bit of history since I got the microphone. That original Hilton, the land that was on, was actually owned by a gentleman by the name of Cecil Blake. That's my stepfather. That was a long time ago. I think he used to have a dairy farm in there even before I was in existence. So there's been a lot change in that area.
Is that prior to the golf course?
Yes, before the golf course. Yep. And it's, what's his name? Senior Games. You know who I'm talking about, the old gentleman. That's who originally purchased some of that property. They slip in my mind. That's how old I'm getting already. Anyways, I'm all in favor. So unless anybody has any comments, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
I just want to make a comment that is just a compliment to Mr. Wade while he's here, because this is the first time I've ever seen him here, so I'm going to compliment him really quick. I have a close family member who works for him, and she grew up without a father figure, and she talks about him all the time. And I don't even know, I mean, he's got so many employees, and she just is all the time saying what a wonderful person she feels like she works for, and how kind he is, and how he comes into the office all the time, and she's just so impressed with him. And so I just wanted to compliment him for that, because I think, we have a lot of business owners in our town that are just really neat people, and he's one of them.
Well, and I'd like to say that, this letter, I understand where these people are coming from, but eventually this would have changed anyway. And I feel like the things that Mr. Wade does for our community and the citizens of this city and myself, my family has been very blessed by him. I think this is a good way to go with this. It sets a good precedence for what's over there, and I do understand these people are going to have to make some changes, but it would have happened anyway, and I think this is a good way to go with
Greg,
No.
anything?
Yeah, I think it fits. There's not a Hilton there any longer. And we appreciate having you, Stephen, in our community and all that you give to our community. It's a great, having this auto mall there is a great asset. So we appreciate, being such a contributor to the community. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion, council.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to change the name of Hilton Drive to to Auto Mall Drive.
The Freudian
And that
slip.
runs that comes from Dixie Drive to Black Ridge is where it ends.
I'll second.
Right?
Motion by...
Yeah, I gotcha.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So who's presenting on item number 5, Adam? Is that Sean or Paula? Sean, I see you on the screen, so.
Yes, I believe Dan is going to present this, Mayor, and then I might have some changes to the ordinance, so.
Okay.
That's what Paula handed, or I brought around to you guys.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Before you can see first of all, this is to consider approval of an ordinance amending Title 1017B8 of the St. George Zoning Code as it pertains to conditional use permit timeframes and bar establishments. You can see on the screen the language that is currently in place. We're proposing the following changes. You can see them outlined in blue and underlined with the ones that would be removed, struck from the language. Kind of going midpoint here, I'll read some of this. The permit holder, one extension for 1 year may be granted if the land use authority finds that use still complies with the review standards. That language exists. It would go on to say the permit holder has commenced substantial construction on the site for which the permit was granted, and additional time is reasonably necessary to complete construction. So that's new language that we are proposing. Goes on to say a request for an extension shall be filed not less than 30 calendar days prior to the expiration date. And then again, new language, if the conditional use is for a bar establishment, the conditional use permit expires if the bar establishment does not obtain its alcohol licenses and is operating within 6 months from the date of approval. No extension is allowed for the bar establishment. For purposes of this section, the land use authority is the city council. And I understand Sean has a couple of items that he wants to add to that as well.
Yes, and perhaps, Dan, you might want to explain to the council before I make the changes why we found these changes necessary.
This is in response to to at least one of the applications that we've seen recently. And we need to make sure that it's clear what substantial construction means, and that's what this attempts to do. And in addition, how it pertains to bar establishments, so that that's clear as well.
Thanks, Dan. So with these changes now, it's clear when a CUP will expire for those non-bar establishments. But also, we wanted to address the bar establishments and say, if you don't receive your permit from the state, your license from the state, or you do, but you're not operational, then you're going to lose that license, and that license would be available to someone else who might be ready to start their bar establishment. So the two changes that I would like to propose to this council is where it says after the red strikeout, 1 extension for 1 year, like to change that to 4 up to 1 year. And the reason for that is, so if someone has delayed in opening their business and the council decides that you would like to give them some time, but not necessarily a full year, then you can say, okay, based on the circumstances now, we will give you 2 more months. to get this done, rather than just having to give them a full another 12 months. So we recommend that you change that language to say one extension for up to 1 year may be granted. And then down below in the last new section where it reads, if the conditional use is for a bar establishment, the conditional use expires if the bar establishment does not obtain its alcohol licenses, and we are proposing that it read or is not operating as a bar establishment for within 6 months from the date of approval. So it would read, the permit expires if the bar establishment does not obtain its alcohol licenses or is not operating as a bar establishment within 6 months from the date of approval. Again, so that it's clear that those expire if you have not met those two terms, those two conditions, and then that permit would become available for someone else. And I don't know if you have any questions on that.
Any questions for Sean?
I was just confused. So Sean, is it still one extension?
One.
It is one extension for up to 1 year.
That's correct.
One extension.
Any other questions? Would you like to make a motion, anyone?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of an ordinance amending Title 10-17B-8 of the St. George Zoning Code as it pertains to conditional use permits, timeframes, and bar establishments with, I believe our new exhibit A that Paula gave us is correct.
It doesn't have the exact language. So if
Okay.
you wish to adopt it as I presented, then it would be as presented.
Okay, as adopted, as presented by council.
Motion by Danielle.
Second.
Second by Jimmy. This is an ordinance, so a roll call vote starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Item number 6.
Okay, item number 6 is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the general plan map from commercial to HDR, high-density residential, on approximately 1.28 acres, generally located southwest of the 900 South and 250 West intersection. That is there outlined in blue on the screen. You've seen this before. This has come in from primarily a commercial area in this general area to, they did some, amended it for some open space up in here, that up along the hillside, and then high density residential on these pieces, and then kind of in this general area. It came back for another amendment on these pieces and this, or this and this, and now they're asking for this piece here. They added, this property has switched hands. One developer had an idea of what they wanted to do on it. They got into it a little ways and decided that wasn't for them. So the property switched hand, and the new developer has kind of a different idea of what they're proposing. So again, this is the area just right down here, and these areas have been switched to HDR. And that's a look at the property. So this is known as the Cove. Again, this is the general plan. We're not looking at zoning at this point. Just the general plan. Wanted to see if they will, if it's HDR is appropriate on this property. Planning Commission has reviewed this, and they recommend approval of the change. So if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan?
So changing this is due to a lot of the property not being usable because of hillside, as you mentioned, is to just add more density to the project. Is that correct?
Yeah, on this particular piece, yes. Because right now it's commercial. So up in here, you're exactly right. It's on a hillside, not buildable. But down in here, where they've changed it to high-density residential, they're wanting to add this one piece to make that whole entire area a little more usable. The applicant is here if you have other questions for him as well.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Greg's brain is thinking.
Well, I guess I don't have questions, I can make comments, but I don't.
Would you like to make your comments?
Sure.
Okay.
When it comes to hillside, when we start looking at hillside and adding density by hillside, I always get concerned. That's one of my big concerns. I think the council's been pretty generous on this piece by switching it to high-density residential, and then when it came back a second time, we added more high-density residential. When the property changes hands, I think the individual purchasing the property buys it at that level. So knowing what they're getting with the current availability, I don't know how comfortable I am personally adding additional high-density residential. I think that's in this location. That's just that's a thought of mine.
Dan, do we know how many units this would add?
I don't. The applicant may have that information.
Okay, if the applicant would like to speak.
Bob Hermanson with Bush & Gudgel. Happy to represent the applicant this evening and appreciate your time and comments. And so just a little bit more expounding on the situation as the property changed hands and then rolling into with a new developer in the project is that this portion wasn't part of that initially as far as their overall design, and then when they got more involved, they were just it just grew. But it's important to note that they are adding one additional building is what ends up happening here in the project. Currently, there was 5 buildings, and the intent is to add one more building, and that only occupies about 20% of the property that we're talking about tonight. The other portion of that is a parking lot and another parking structure, and so it's actually boosting parking for all of the other units as well, not just for the building that's we're adding in. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so, yes, there are more units, and I'm sorry I don't have the unit count on this in front of me, and I don't want to misquote it. It's one additional building. They're all the same building. Give me 1 second here. I'm sorry. And it might be. I'm sorry. I don't want to misquote it. It's one additional building from our previous plan.
That's okay. I believe this is a good place for high density. It's kind of tucked back behind some commercial there, and
to me it makes more sense than commercial, just because I don't know how it would be a challenging spot for commercial. But I mean, I'm sure you could figure something out there, but it's hard spot to make commercial work.
It would be, and then also, and that was the current owner's anticipation as well, that it would be difficult. And again, the boosting and parking with the extra two parking lots and the potential structure that's there, it's adding more parking across the board so that we can stay on site entirely. And so overall, it does seem to make sense from my planning mind, anyways. So
yeah, because parking on that road is bad.
Yeah, I want to be off of that entirely. And so, like I say, I would guess, just as rough numbers, that roughly 25% of it would be occupied by building, but the entire rest of it is a parking lot. And so it's way more parking that's required than just the additional building. So
I'll add my comment while you're there.
Right.
I actually like the plan that's put on there. I think it's well thought out, a good looking plan. The only concern I guess I have is just if this isn't the plan that goes through, and there's more high density, we give more high density than the plan changes up, things like that. That's just the concern, if that makes sense. But I think that's something we can address in zoning. So
Okay.
I do like the plan that you put on it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other?
John, you want to comment?
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks,
When
Bob.
you're looking at the amount of acreage, we're looking at general plans, so we're looking at the number of units. And so with that range between the, 15 to 22, you're looking at between 25 to 38 units on that property. And so if you go in the low range, you're roughly 25. On the upper end, you're about 38. So when we're talking about a parking lot, we haven't laid it out yet or seen that design. We're strictly talking about the general plan. So that's about the additional units that could go on that property.
Thanks, John. Any other questions, council?
I agree with Greg, although at the end of the day, this is a great place for that project, and it looks good. So there is some concern there, and he's right to keep bringing that up. I'll make a motion if you want, unless somebody else has anything they want to add. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the ordinance changing the general plan map from commercial to high-density residential on approximately 1.28 acres, generally located southwest of the 900 South and 250 West intersection.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Greg.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. You know what, Greg? I'm going to download the Jeopardy music on my phone and just start playing it for you.
I like to think things through.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Item 7 is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from the zoning on the property from R110, single-family residential, and PDR to a new PDR, planned development residential, on approximately 60.26 acres, and PDC, planned development commercial, on approximately 16.66 acres. It's generally located on the south of Canyon View Drive and southwest of Dixie Drive. The applicant is also seeking approval of the first phase of the development, which is approximately 14.25 acres and would have 10 apartment buildings, and correction, 240 units, not 244. We'll take a look at that here in a little more detail in just a second. This is a look at the general plan and the zoning. You can see the general plan calls for both commercial and medium-density residential. That's this map on the left. And then over here you see the zoning. Again, as I stated before, it's R110, and there's a little bit of PDR in here. This would take up, basically follow what we see here on the general plan, and all that's planned for medium-density residential would become medium-density residential, and commercial would become commercial. So this is a look at the plan from the zoning book that they have. There's a zone plan that they have turned into the city. You can see the Area 8 is Legacy Village. That is already under construction. You've probably seen it as you've driven by. And so that is not a part of what we are talking about. It is shown here on the plan, but we're actually talking about the other property that would be rezoned. Over just across Skyrocket Road to the northwest, we have the apartments, which we'll talk about in a little more detail here in a minute. But that's 240 units right there. You can see as you go west and south, that there is an area for tiny homes. There's an area for duplexes and townhomes. There's also some single family to the far northwest. And then as you go down the other way, you see an area for some commercial, some area for single-family residential, again, a little bit larger lots down in that area, and then you have some area for commercial down towards Dixie Drive. So that's a high view look at the proposal. Then getting into a little closer, these are some elevations that they have provided to us to kind of show what they feel could be built. This is a look at the tiny home area. So again, you have the apartments over here and the commercial here, Skyrocket Drive is here. So this area in orange is the tiny homes, and this is what they believe something like this could be built for the tiny home section. Numbers are outlined in the staff report as well, and I should probably bring that up. Let's see. The tiny homes, we're looking at about 50 units, and these numbers are approximate. The apartments are dialed in. We know exactly how many they're asking for there, and these are pretty close. This is pretty close to what we see. We think we'll see on these other areas, but just keep in mind that the unit numbers are kind of approximate. So 50 units, we're looking at the tiny homes. The townhome duplex area, we're looking at approximately 80 units. And again, these are some renderings of what those could look like. And then the single family areas, those, we don't have renderings of those buildings, but they would just be single family homes. Look at some at the commercial area, something like this is kind of what they have envisioned for the commercial areas. The area outlined in green here and kind of running through the center of the property and then along the edges, that is showing the open space. It's about 19 acres of open space that they are proposing. Now that said, each of these individual, particularly the multifamily, tiny homes areas, the duplex areas, will have to provide 30% to meet the PDR standards. So each one of those pods or areas will also provide their necessary amenities and open space. This is a look at the use list. The Planning Commission took a pretty good look at this list, and they had some changes to it that they wanted to see. This is pretty straight from the ordinance, and the Planning Commission felt it needed to be whittled down a little bit. So looking at these numbered areas, so they recommended approval of the project with these changes. And they wanted to remove all references to outdoor storage and display, remove overnight stays in the mental health facilities and the counseling centers, remove automobile rental, car washes, tire sales and services, alcohol establishments, RV storage and storage rental units, bus terminal and taxi shuttles, and remove communication transmission facilities over 50 feet, but add under 50 feet for the communication transmission facilities permitted with standards to the communication transmission facilities. So they would have to meet the standards that are outlined in the ordinance for those types of facilities. And then they wanted to add the language that each of the uses that were left are limited to those following uses to all the overall headings. So that it's clear that those are the uses that are allowed specifically. So that was. And anytime, if you have any questions, please feel free.
I have a question.
Please.
Why did they want to remove bus terminal? Because to me, you're right there on Dixie Drive, and if people are living in a tiny home or something there, public transportation is ideal for that type of community.
And I think this bus terminal is referring to more of a...
Like a Greyhound bus terminal?
That's what I believe so. Yeah.
Like a hub?
Right.
Okay.
So not your stop for...
To pick up.
Public transport. Yeah, exactly.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So the alcohol establishment, we have bar establishment. Is that what that's supposed to mean? Because restaurants have alcohol.
Yeah, they took out the bar establishments. Anything that was specifically for alcohol is what they took out, not a restaurant that would serve alcohol. That's a restaurant and they may be permitted, given licensing and so forth, to be able to serve alcohol there. But it would be like your bars or a brewery or something like that. Those specific things are the ones that they wanted to take out. Does that answer your question? Sort of? Okay. They left the residential list alone, so not recommending any changes to that. And I'll try to go through this quickly because I know this is a lot of information, but this is a look at the apartment section. So again, that's the overall PD. This is the apartments or area A, area 1. 10 units. Or 10 buildings, I should say, 240 units, so each building would have 24 units. They are proposing, I believe the number was around 39% open space and landscaping. They have, they're proposing an area for pickleball courts, a tot lot, a little dog park, clubhouse, pool, and I believe that there are basketball courts as well. So they are meeting their amenity requirements, and their parking requirement as well. They're not asking for any deviations to the parking standards. So that's 2 stalls for every unit, and 1 stall for every 3 units for guest parking.
Can I ask a question on that? Yeah. On the parking, when we were reviewing this before in a previous meeting, are some of the stalls required for an additional cost that go into that count? Meaning, you're getting the enclosed or the garage or whatever, so you have to pay more for those that go into that count?
I'm not aware of what their model is as far as that goes, but the applicant will be able to answer that. Yeah.
We heard that comment from the city council and revised our plan, so all of the parking will be included with the rent.
Okay.
Good question.
This is a look at the landscape, the conceptual landscape plan. Of course, we'd go through this with a fine-tooth comb if approved to make sure that it meets all the code requirements. And then a look at the buildings, 3 stories high. There's 2 building types. One is a little shorter and wider. The other one's longer and skinnier. But this is a look at those stone, stucco, metal composite accents, etc. And then renderings of the proposed buildings. And that is the request. So if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I know the applicant again is here.
I don't have a question at this time. I'm excited for a project like this to be built, to see, because we don't have one, to see what happens with it and how it plays out, and I'm excited for it. I did ask Cameron to keep doing traffic studies on Canyon View Drive, because if you got this all coming online and DeVario and everything, that's crazy. We really need a light there. And anyway, that's all I have. But if the applicant has anything they want to add, or also if the applicant, is there anything that the Planning Commission specified that you weren't comfortable with? We'd like to hear that too.
No, I think that we're good.
You're good.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Council, any questions, comments?
I guess, yeah, I'm excited for this development too, Michelle. And I guess the only one that they removed that I've already commented on is it actually does seem like a great spot to me for a brewery. That was our conversation about downtown, is we were worried about everything being so concentrated in one space. But if we don't allow any other spaces, it's probably good to spread those establishments out, and there's going to be a lot of density out there. So, I don't know, I'll leave that to you guys, but and maybe they don't, maybe the applicant isn't even worried about it, a brewery coming in there, maybe that's not in their, you know, kind of what they were going to be seeking, but just a comment. I'm okay with whatever we decide.
I'll make a comment on the project. I like a lot about this project. I like that this is a place where someone could start in their early career, and if they want to stay in the neighborhood, they could move up into different housing types. So I think it's well planned out. I do have a concern. I have a concern on tiny houses. As of right now, I think they're an unfound product, and I have a concern. When I make decisions on things, when I have my city council hat on, I like to think, I want to make sure that as we zone for something, we look 30 years out in the future, and do tiny home areas remain something that's desirable and a high level, great community over time? I don't know. So I do have concerns on that. However, that being said, if there's a place that we're going to try it, this is a good community to try it in as being part of it. So, just to have that be on record is, I'm not in favor of tiny homes in St. George. However, probably in this development, I think it's something I'd be willing to try here.
I'll speak in favor of the tiny homes. I think that it's a great alternative for small family groups to have their own independent space. If they don't want to live in an apartment or an attached product. Personally, I have a lot of people in my life that really look for this kind of product. So, I guess for me, almost every house or dwelling space after 30 years needs a facelift. So I'm not sure. I understand what Councilman MacArthur's saying, is it going to get run down just because of what it is? I guess I just have a different perspective on it. I kind of think that it's a space for people who can afford less to show pride in their space. And I think, especially it's a great, like you say, it's a great place to test it out. And if it ends up with the great design that they're showing, people are going to take pride in that space. And so, yeah,
it might just surprise us some.
It might.
Yeah, and I do. I think this is a perfect location for it to test it out and see if we want more spread out around St. George. So, any other questions? If no other questions,
I like the project, and I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance changing the zone from R110 single family residence, 10,000 square foot lot size, and PDR planned residential development to PDR planned residential development on approximately 60.26 acres, and PDC planned development commercial on approximately 16.66 acres, generally located on the south of Canyon View Drive and southwest of Dixie Drive. The applicant also seeking approval of the first phase of the development, which is approximately 14.25 acres, and would have 10 apartment buildings on 244 units.
240.
Oh, 240.
That's a typo.
240 units.
Councilman Smethurst, can I ask you about your motion? Are you going to keep the same exclusions that the Planning Commission recommended?
With the same exclusions that the Planning Commission has recommended, yes.
Motion by Brian.
Second.
Second by Jimmy. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, may I make one comment?
Uh-huh.
Did you want to add the condition to that, with the parking, that the parking not be a paid parking situation?
Sure.
Would you amend your motion to that?
Yes, I'll amend my motion to that. No unpaid parking.
Second, so amended.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
No. Yes, you may.
I just wanted to put on the record that last condition that was placed in that motion does not indicate that the city of St. George has taken the position that any parking requirement for any residential housing or any parking requirement at all that's associated with any approved building or plan needs to state that the parking has to be unpaid. It's just come to our attention that there may be a property owner that is charging for parking that's required as part of their approval for their buildings. And I don't want that to be misconstrued that we believe that we need to put that in our ordinance or in our approvals every time, because the city's position is clear, and that is any required parking is to be unpaid parking. And would you agree with that, Adam?
Adam, would you agree with that? He's talking to Wes. So they weren't paying any attention to you, Sean. I'm sorry.
Oh, well.
Just say yes.
What I like to hear.
We agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda, item number.
Hey, can I ask a question though to that point? I mean, is that obvious? Do we make that obvious, or we can make that obvious to people who come forward with these so that it doesn't have to be part of our motion? Is that it's just obvious, like it can't be paid park. It can't be, you can't be charging for parking that you're counting as parking.
Right.
Obviously,
and so John and I are working on that, and we'll
Okay.
discuss that with Adam. So I just wanted to make it clear. I understand why it came up tonight because of the situation that's occurred. But I think it's really clear, abundantly clear in our ordinance right now that required parking is to be unpaid parking.
So without that in the motion, Sean, could they have charged parking for parking?
No.
Because it wasn't part of the proposal. Their proposal didn't include charged parking. So I guess I question whether we even needed to make that as part of the motion.
Well, I say leave it in your motion. That is fine. I wasn't aware that that was going to be included, so I just wanted to make it clear for the record that the city's position is not that we need to state that in our approvals, because any required parking as a condition of approval for a building is unpaid.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
And then, since we're still debating the previous item, Wes and I were just discussing the traffic on Skyrocket Road. I do think it's going to be problematic, and so I expressed to Wes, and I'll just go ahead and say to the applicant's representative, I think you might as well count on a traffic signal there. I assume it will be warranted. That's a lot of units to be putting on a Dixie Drive, and I just don't think that connection to Canyon View is going to be adequate to expect that they're going to go to that signal. So I think we're going to have further discussion about that signal. I don't think it changes the motion the council's made, but just...
Question, does that mean there'll be a Skyrocket Drive will have a signal and also Canyon View Drive?
Well, I think there may even be questions about the separation between Canyon View and Skyrocket and whether or not we can put them that close together, but I think we're going to have to look at it. I mean, that's a lot of units. And I know engineering's looked at it, but I just, maybe for the record to state that to the applicant's representative.
Thanks, Adam. John, you got the floor.
All right. Item number 8, consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from A1 to RE 37.5 on approximately 20.52 acres located at approximately 2450 south between 3430 east and Crimson Cliffs. So this is the location of the zone change. You can see the new high school located just to the north. 2450 is located here, and Crimson Cliff Way is here. The X marks the spot of where the applicant is requesting the rezone. You can see to the north, we recently did a rezone to RE 37.5. And so the applicant is requesting the same zone that is to the north. Here's the exhibit that was provided by the applicant, outlined in the pinkish red. They are requesting the RA 37.5, which is consistent with what the zoning is to the north. Planning Commission did hear this and take public comment and did recommend approval for this rezone of the property. And that concludes staff's presentation. If City Council has any questions.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion we approve the ordinance changing the zone from A1 to RE 37.5 on approximately 20.52 acres located approximately 2450 south between 3430 east and Crimson Cliffs.
I'll second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Greg.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
If they ever want to keep a few 1 acre A1s there, I'm okay with that. Let them know that.
See ya.
The next item on the agenda is item 9, consider approval and ordinance amending the Dinosaur Crossing PD on approximately 0.99 acres located on Lot 2. So this is a request to amend the zone to include the elevation, site plan, and the more specific information on Lot 2, which is located here, outlined in red. You can see Riverside Drive is here, Mall Drive, and this is the Smiths, and so it's the far lot located here. The zoning, again, is the PDC. The Lot 2 is where it's located. This is the site plan. They are meeting the parking requirements. They're also meeting the landscaping ordinance, and staff will review that in more detail when the site plan comes through to make sure that it complies with our ordinance. There is a drive-through located on the site. This is going to be a Taco Bell. This is the elevations the applicant's proposing. The material board. Planning Commission took public comment on this item and recommends approval. And that concludes staff's presentation if the City Council has any questions.
Kekiaro is my only, I thought since Gil wasn't here, I'd throw that in. Kekiaro Taco Bell. The only question, John.
I'll go ahead and make a motion if there's no questions to approve the ordinance amending the Dinosaur Crossing PD on approximately 0.99 acres located on Lot 2.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, second by Brian. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
That's the fanciest Taco Bell building I've ever seen. It is. It's nice.
Okay, item 11 is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 92-lot residential subdivision called Desert Horizon. Site is located approximately 3000 East Broken Mesa Drive in the Desert Canyon development. Property is 24.57 acres for a density of 3.7 dwelling units an acre. The zone is R17. General plan shows this as residential. The applicant is Development Solutions Group. So there we go. Here's the location of the project right here. Here's the Southern Parkway. Here's Desert Canyons Parkway here. So it's west of Desert Canyons Parkway and obviously south of the Southern Parkway. This is the layout of their subdivision. If you want to locate yourself, this is where the new elementary school is going right here. And then again, let's see. Yeah, so you can see it right here on your vicinity map. So these are the 92 lots here. I think the largest lot, they have a couple really large lots right here on the corners. I think the largest lot actually is 16,000 square feet. And then the smallest meets the zone at exactly 7,000 square feet. So it's a wide variety of lot sizes within this subdivision.
Nobody has anything?
And, well, any questions? Did we miss number 10?
Remember, we pulled
Oh,
out-
that's pulled, that's right. I'm like, because I'm looking, I'm totally confused, because I'd marked it off, but, hey. If there's no questions.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for the Desert Horizon residential subdivision.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Like so.
This next item is item number 12. Consider a temporary land use regulation prohibiting the approval of land use in the airport supporting business park zone and in approximately 363 acres of R110 zone located west of the airport supporting business park. And so this is a temporary ordinance regulating the area outlined in red. The reason that that staff is recommending this temporary ordinance is in order to allow us some time to look at what's happening in this area and ensure that the uses are appropriate given the airport and the significance of the airport. And so it would be at least a 6-month temporary ordinance. We could end it early and it could be extended if we needed to. And so that's the purpose of this temporary ordinance.
And it does what exactly? You might tell me? It says nothing can happen, or?
No, yeah, nothing can happen in this area.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And Mayor, if you're inclined to, if the council's inclined to approve this, it would be upon a finding of a compelling reason, as stated by John, that the uses that go into that area be compatible with the airport due to the proximity of the land to the airport.
Have fun with that motion, council.
I mean, in that case, why isn't it just a smooth, circle around the airport? Why is it so unusually shaped?
That's the zone, and so when you look at it, that's the shape of the zone.
So, but like there's excluded zones, or maybe they're already zoned for the airport. Is that what it is?
This area is, but if you look at it, this area that's not covered, that doesn't have a zone, is in Washington City.
Okay.
And so the outline follows that ASBP zone and includes this portion of R110, which is all the same property owner that owns this property here.
Okay.
And so we just brought in that entire area so we can look at it just to make sure that the uses are supporting what the airport and what the kind of vision is of that area.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. Go ahead. No, you got it. I've had my share. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion we approve the temporary land use regulations prohibiting the approval of land uses in the ASBP zone in approximately 363 acres of R110 zone located west of the ASBP zone.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Greg, second by Danielle, but Christina just said that Kurt Gordon is raising his hand.
Oh.
Mayor, are you going to take comment from the public? It is not a public.
No, it's not a public hearing, so. Council, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. I don't have any appointments to boards or commissions. Just let everyone know that Jimmy agreed to stay as Mayor Pro Tem. And any reports? Let's start with Danielle. Got anything?
No, I do not. It's like I just went brain dead, just right there.
That's okay. We don't you don't makes the meeting shorter, right?
You don't need to hear from me. I know, it's lovely.
I don't know that I have anything either.
I want to say congratulations to all those who got the award, a Brighter Side Award.
Oh, yeah.
What a great,
Good
what a
call.
great team we have in the city for their, I mean, the names on there, every one of them are just high quality people, and as all the rest of them are, but they really shined this time, and I appreciate them and want to say thank you and congratulations.
Second.
Third.
Greg, do you have any reports?
No reports tonight.
With that, I will enter, and we have no need for a closed session, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Did you get that? Motion by Jimmy, second by Danielle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.